Welcome to the Helping Families Be Happy podcast, where we explore the often messy world of family love and relationships. I'm your host for this podcast, Christopher Robbins, the co-founder of Familius Publishing, husband, father of 9, author, fly fisherman, backpacker, and aspirational musician based in the beautiful Central Valley of California. We hope to bring you nourishing, real-life information about love, family, relationships, and life. And we are thrilled to welcome today's guest, Matt Payne. Now, Matt is a professional landscape photographer, writer, and podcaster based in Durango, Colorado. Raised in the shadow of Pikes Peak and climbing his first mountain at age 4, Matt developed a deep love for the outdoors from a young age. In 2018, Matt accomplished his goal of climbing the highest 100 mountains in Colorado, where his passion for photography was kindled. Today, he channels that passion into capturing the beauty of wild, remote places through his photography, leading international workshops with Munich workshops, and hosting the long-running podcast F-Stop, Collaborate, and Listen. He's also a co-founder of the Natural Landscape Photography Awards and the author of an upcoming fine art book with Familius that celebrates the awe and beauty of Colorado. As a father himself, Matt is a strong advocate for connecting children and families with nature through meaningful experiences. Well, today we're discussing photography and what we should know to make fantastic family photos. The information shared, of course, aligns with the Familius habits: learn together and play together. You can learn more about the Familius 10 Habits of Happy Families by going to the Habit Hub blog on Familius.com. And for the video of this podcast, please go to the Familius YouTube channel. Well, what a bio, Matt. Welcome. We are thrilled to have you.
Thanks, Chris. I'm a little bit tired already just because of the fact that you're raising 9 kids. And I'm like, wow, that sounds way harder than what I've done. So congrats to you.
You know, when I meet people and they're very excited and they say, we have 6 kids, we have 5 kids, we have 7 kids. I always say, that's a great start.
That's totally fair, man.
It doesn't matter how many kids you have, it's your choice, and what you have is what you have, and just enjoy the ride.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Now, you grew up in the mountains in Colorado, and you said you climbed your first peak at age 4. Now, how did that experience and those experiences help develop your love or your view, your eye as a photographer, your thoughts as a father, and of course, maybe someone who just loves nature?
Yeah, I love that. Well, it definitely developed my passion for the outdoors at an early age. And, I was lucky enough to have a family that had high values and ethics around outdoor stewardship. And so that was imbued into me in an early age. Every time we'd go camping, which was pretty much every weekend when I was growing up, we'd get to a campsite and my parents, we would spend like the first couple hours just cleaning the camp and making it better than the way we found it. And that really instilled in me like this awe and appreciation for Mother Nature and the natural beauty that we find ourselves in, especially here in Colorado. And so I think that just kind of translated naturally in terms of like what I was drawn to as a photographer. I'm kind of drawn to those ephemeral moments, those scenes and those experiences that I've had in the outdoors. And so I'm just super thankful and happy that my parents instilled those kind of ethics and values into me, because it's guided who I am as a human being myself. And it certainly has guided the way that I try to be a parent for my son as well, in terms of, like respect others, respect nature, but also like get out there and have an amazing time with the people that you love, right?
So you've talked with me a little bit in some past conversations about being out in nature is such a mindful experience. And I'm wondering if there's a moment in your childhood or early adulthood as you're growing up with your family where you realize that nature wasn't just a playground. It was something that really helped ground you, perhaps even propel you on a lifelong love of stewardship.
Oh man, there's so many examples of that, but perhaps my favorite moment was I think I was 7 years old and I was climbing a mountain in Colorado. It didn't have a name back then. It was just a high 13er. And my dad and I were on the top, and we realized that there was this crazy thunderstorm coming. And he was like, "We gotta go." So we started literally like running down this scree field that was super steep, no trail. And he just held my hand, and like we just kind of like I don't know if you've ever skied before, Chris, but you basically are skiing on rocks because it's like sliding as you run down it. I call that scree skiing, and it's super, super fun. But that really grounded me in terms of understanding like nature is an amazing place, but it's also a dangerous place. And you need to give it respect and you need to treat it as a place that you have reverence for. But also, if you don't treat it with respect, it's gonna pay you back and maybe make your life not so exciting.
Yes, I have, for full disclosure, skied down mountains both on snow and rock.
Yes, so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, one arguably is more safe than the other. Uh,
Oh, for sure.
all right, well, you're a photographer, so let's talk about photographer, and let's focus part of this podcast on helping families and people know, well, how can we take great photography of our families? How do we have better photography of nature when we see those moments outdoors? Um, so maybe just help us get started. What are some first things that we should know when we think about taking photos outside?
So I feel like most photographers would spend like an hour telling you about all the technicals and, getting to know your camera and understanding the exposure triangle and apertures and shutter speeds and all that stuff. Don't get me wrong, that stuff is super important, but it's also probably the easiest part of photography to learn. In my opinion, really what you should do is focus on celebrating those experiences and those magical moments that you have with the people that you love. And so, for example, like, I don't know, like 10 years ago, I did a backpacking trip with my son, and he was 7 years old at the time. And it was just me and him, and we were way up in the mountains together. And just watching him and observing him experience that pure joy of like this unadulterated freedom of being in nature and just like exploring the surroundings that we were in. And I just had a blast photographing him in that environment. And some of those are some of my favorite photographs of him is like I remember when we were around a campfire and I had brought like a dehydrated cheesecake and I made it for him and he was so excited. And so I've got a photo of him with this goofy hat on and his teeth are just full of dark chocolate and there's a fire and it's just one of those things that, I'll always take me back to that moment. So I think focusing on the experience and the emotions that you are feeling in those moments, I think that's going to take you much, much further than worrying about settings and stuff like that.
Okay, for another full disclosure is that I've refused to have, except for one time when my wife forced me to have a set family photo shoot because I hate them. But what I find to be the most fun is when you capture photos of people just doing everyday things that then really capture those memories of what was really happening. That's a lot of fun. So maybe there's value in just thinking about taking photos of life. What's really going on?
Yeah, and, when I'm on my workshops, people who are learning photography, they really struggle with like, what do I take a picture of, Matt? Like, what am I supposed to be shooting here? And I'm like, okay, well, what are the things that you're drawn to? Like, who are like, look inward, and what are the things that you're excited about? So, if we're walking on the coastline of Oregon, and you notice a bunch of weird rocks getting hit with the water over and over again, pay attention to that feeling you have about like, oh, that's interesting to me because that's where the photographs are going to come from and that speak from you and say something about you and what you noticed about the world. And so I say do the same thing when it comes to photographing your family or the experiences that you're having together as a family. Focus on those things that catch your attention, bring you joy, and bring you awe, and the rest of it is super easy, honestly.
Okay, well, that's great advice. Now let's go back to kids. It sounds like you've maybe perhaps dragged your child, your son, on some mountain adventures. Um, some of us have kids that they don't want to go outside. Maybe they're stuck on their phones. Maybe if they have phones, or it's something new they don't want to do. How do we? And can you give us advice how we get our kids outside to enjoy these moments so we can take photos of them and have them experience the joys of being out in nature?
Yeah, it's a tough one for me because my son is one of those kids that you just described. So what I had to do is I had to kind of relinquish any um, attachments I had to having a result in mind. It's just a matter of like spending the time out there. And if it takes you 6 hours to go a mile, then it takes you 6 hours to go a mile. And what I found was super useful, especially when my son was younger, was trying to come up with some fun games to play along the way. Whether it be like something as simple as like how many grasshoppers can you count on the way or in the next hour, or you know, can we sing? Let's sing a song together. Like just trying to make it fun and relaxed. And I think, and it's hard for me because I'm like a very goal-oriented, driven person when I'm in the outdoors. I'm like, especially even when I was a kid, I was like, let's go to the top of that mountain. Let's go to the top of that mountain. Well, my son wasn't like that. He's like, oh, really? Are we gonna hike again? I'm tired. My feet hurt. And it's like, I know, man. So you gotta try to find a way to make it fun for them. In regards to the phone thing, I actually allow my son to bring his phone with him, like download some TV shows or movies. But like I used it kind of like as a reward for when we would get to the destination for the end of the day. So whatever you can do to get him out there. And then what I found with my son is once he's out there and after the fact, he's like, yeah, that was pretty fun. That was cool. So I totally hear you on the like some kids aren't just not built for the outdoors, but once you get them in the environment and you make it more about fun and just having a good time with each other, I think it works out pretty well.
Now, you said you allowed him to bring his phone as a potential reward, but did you then work with him and encourage him to take photos while he was out there? And was that any type of gateway for his beginning to love nature?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he would take pictures and take funny videos and things like that. So, again, it's kind of like whatever you can do to like leverage their interests. So my son is super into singing, and he's also like I think we had talked about this, Chris, but he's also into like doing drama and plays and things like that. So, like have a fun thing when you get to the campsite, like. Maybe you can do a skit or something like that. So whatever your kid is into, I think if you can leverage that into the experience, they're going to have a better time.
Well, that's helpful. Let's go to another subject. So you spend a lot of time outdoors. Often in our life, we find analogies, things that we can align with our own experience from experiences we have outside, and the majesty and the challenges, just the beauty and the awesomeness. Have you found anything that perhaps align with your view of parenthood or these experiences in nature that might even help us think, how could we be a better parent, be better
Hmm.
family member?
Yeah, well, nature definitely has a way of humbling us because it's so unpredictable. We have very little control over the weather, over what we might encounter out there. And I find that the same is true when it comes to raising our kids. I find that a lot of parents, especially over the last 10, 15 years, are kind of like constantly worried about like what their kid is doing and like want to control every aspect of them and trying to keep them out of trouble and preventing them from things. So I find nature is like a really good guide for parenthood in itself. Like you can't control everything, but you can learn a lot of lessons along the way if you pay attention. And so I'm a big proponent of letting your kids fail and do things that might get them a little bit hurt, or maybe, oh, you forgot two pairs of socks and now your feet are cold. So what are we going to do next time we go camping, right? So I'm all about letting nature be a good teacher, and let people make mistakes because you're going to learn a lot faster from them than just preventing the mistake to begin with.
I've taken a lot of young men on what I simply call overnighters up in the mountains, and the mothers are often really nervous. And I've had to turn to them and say, I promise you, no one has ever starved in 24 hours. It'll be okay.
Right. Yes, exactly.
There are other dangers, but lack of food is not a problem. Um, so you lead workshops all around the world. And we often get excited to go, outside our front door to go to some exotic place and take photos. But are there photos we should be thinking about right outside our front door?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'm lucky to live where I live in Durango, Colorado, and just out my back door, there's lots of nature trails and smaller mountains that I can hike, in a couple of hours. And I love just going up there with my camera, especially in late spring when the flowers are starting to bloom. And um, I just I just pay attention to the things that are providing me with inspiration and awe. And obviously, you can find the same sorts of things at your local parks. Anywhere that there's water, especially like if you have a local park that has water, you can just go there and watch the reflections or pay attention to the way that the water is rippling. I mean, for me, it's like nature is providing pretty much everywhere, even in your own backyard with bugs and plants and weird things that you can find under nooks and crannies. So to me, it's really just about curiosity and figuring out how to make the most of it.
Okay. So now let's just get a little technical, just a little technical. So some of us might not have, a great eye. Maybe we don't have a great sense of color or composition. So when we want to set up to make a photo, just what are a couple things that we should remember?
Yeah, so first of all, I would say a lot of it is about your mindset. So the first thing I would challenge you to do is get rid of that mindset that you're not creative or that you don't have a good eye. It's really just about like I have been doing photography for 20 years. I've just taken a lot more bad photos than you have, Chris. And that's really the secret to my success. So a lot of it is just practice, practice, practice. And then seeking out feedback of people that you trust or people that you admire, like ask them for honest feedback and be open to getting that feedback. And then, like I said earlier, like paying attention to the things that you're personally drawn to and like make your photography about that, whatever it is. It could just be like rocks in your backyard, or it could be flowers, or it could be bugs, whatever it is, or the way that your kids are playing outside. How it doesn't really matter. And then, like I said, seek out feedback because it's really important to have an open mind. And I promise, like once you change your mindset in that way, your photography is going to get a lot better really fast.
Now, do we have to invest in a very expensive camera, or can we just use our phones?
Totally could just use your phone. I mean, these phones are pretty amazing nowadays. They do have some limitations in terms of dynamic range and weird color renditions and things like that. But if you're just getting started and wanting to capture those special moments, there's nothing wrong with just using your phone and figuring out how to get the best out of that. And then once you find what your limitations are with the camera, or with the phone, I mean, then you might want to start investing in something that costs a little bit more and learning that. But yeah, if you're just getting started, just play with the phone and see where that takes you.
Always great advice. So now I understand that you're writing a book with Familis. Can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit more about that? What is it?
Yeah, so I'm super excited about this one. As we mentioned, I've been photographing here in Colorado for most of my life now, and so it's really a collection of images from my favorite places in Colorado. Most of it's focused on the mountains of Colorado and these really ephemeral moments and scenes like that. So I think we're targeting around 500 images for the book, a couple of short kind of essays about different places that we're going to be featuring in the book. And hopefully, it's going to be a really exciting visual journey across the best places in Colorado.
And it totally falls within the mission of helping families be happy that Familis has. Is get outdoors and enjoy what nature has to offer. Matt, thanks so much for joining us today. Now, where can our guests find you online?
Yeah, the best place is through my website, which is mattpaynephotography.com.
And that's Payne, Payne.
Yes, thank you.
Well, as we conclude today's podcast, I'd like to thank Familis for their support in bringing the podcast to your ears and your heart. We'd be thrilled if you subscribed to the podcast and left us a review. And when you're ready for that next amazing book adventure, we'd be honored if you chose a book from Familis. One step at a time, one great family photo at a time, we can make the world a happier place.